Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friends in Recovery podcast. I'm your host, Jersey Ed, along with my two co-hosts today. Not Skylar at noontime, but we do have Tiff and we have Jeff. Jeff Zazel. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you for co-hosting today. Skylar is out and about doing some things, and we miss you, Skylar. We'll see you back next week. And I'd like to thank all of our donors who made this show possible today. To make a donation, please go to our website, friendsinrecoverycommunity.org, or right now you can send a check to F.I.R.E, F-I-R-E, P.O. Box 1551, Johns Island, South Carolina, 29457. And that'll be up on the screen, and we'll put that up on in the show notes too. So if you want to make a donation, and then we'll also get it'll be easier to go through the website, but the website's not up yet, but we just got to say that. So this week's topic is step 6, a clinical look at step 6 with Jeff Zazel. And Tiff, what did we say? What would Jeff say? Is that our logo?
What would Jay-Z say?
What would Jay-Z say? Or no, Jeff Z. We don't want to get us confused.
Right, Jay-Z's Beyonce's
No, we got to
husband.
say Jay-Z.
Jay-Z, you think?
We'll get more views, yeah.
All right. What would Jay-Z say today, right? So you're going to hear what Jay-Z says.
Good or bad, you'll hear it.
So
I always use that. I told Dad I was going to make a bracelet that say, what would Jay-Z do?
That's right.
WWJZ.
That's right. That's right. So stay tuned for some amazing recovery literature that we'll be using today. Jeff is going to be using a great book that I've read a couple of times, and I've just donated because I have too much stuff, and I'll go into that why I'm donating shit. I'm not dying, I swear. But Jeff is going to use a book called Make Your Bed. Tiffany, with her vast knowledge of recovery out there, has no literature because she's at a fucking car show, and I'm stuck in a little hot box in my new house in my room, and she's going to join us from the car show, and we're going to want to hear all about that car show, what's going on behind there, and why you're there, Tiff. And
another adventure in recovery.
Another adventure in recovery, and I'm going to be using the 12 and 12 and the Life Book Recovery. And before we get into the shout outs, I want to just let everybody know we're giving away a book today, the Life Book, the Life Recovery Workbook, and it is signed by Jersey Ed, guys. Look, signed inside by Jersey Ed. So this is worth, I don't know, it could be worth $3 right now, I think.
Probably.
At least.
By the end of the show, maybe $1.
$1, yes, yes.
Well, reduce the value of the book.
That's it, reduced. Yeah, it's free, so you get it for free.
Damaged.
So if you want a signed book, the Life Recovery Workbook, which I use a lot on this show, signed by me, I don't know, maybe I'll make you pay the postage because it's going to go down in value. And I don't know, but give us, send us an email, help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.
Comment below.
And we will pick a name and we will just send it out to you guys, and it's a great book. And that's a lot. The workbook is a great book because we use that a lot on this show for the steps. So, and then sober shout outs. What sober shout outs do we have? I know Jeff had one too. Go ahead, Tiff.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Carvici, and because our show with them and all the cars are there, so we get to do an F.I.R. from all the cars here, Hot Rod Recovery. But I know that they are going to be making a big announcement about a donation to Friends in Recovery. So that'll be coming up soon. And maybe when one of the guys walks by, we'll have them make that announcement because that'll be a big contest.
All right. That's cool. I kind of know what it is, but I'm not going to spoil it. Not going to give any spoilers here, but and we're looking forward. Maybe grab one of the guys and we'll interrupt the show for a breaking bulletin. How's that? Right?
Yeah. Love it.
Breaking news.
Jeff, any sober shout outs?
Yes. Doug W. has just a year, I believe it was last week. So he's doing remarkably well, and want to let folks know, keep it up.
Yeah.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to give a sober shout out to, of course, Joe at Dayton Recovery Strong 101. He's always on here or always commenting. He's always on our meetings. Also a sober shout out to Carl, of course, from Sober Pod, who is on vacation now. I think he's in Alaska, guys. I think he's in Alaska. And we just came off of our vacation. We had to take a week off, and we had to adjust some things, and now we're back. And I did a quick show. If you guys, all 13 viewers, okay, so it's not me. It's not me driving this show, right? We'll have to see. But all 13 viewers last week, thank you so much for watching.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to send that out.
Yeah, me too. So it was like only a couple minutes, but I did move into a new house. I'm in my office now and just getting things settled in. So if the show seems like we're a little going all over the place, because we're all over the place right now. And that's life on life's terms, guys. You know what I mean? This is real. This is going out live. This is going out real. You know, stuff happens in life, and it happens here with us too. And it's okay. You know, it's okay that we do this. And
That's
it's
the
just
beauty of it.
Yeah, it is the beauty of it. This is not scripted. You know, literally 5 minutes before we came on, we got Jeff's microphone to work.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yeah, my hotspot to work.
got your hotspot to work. That's it. So Joe and also all our donors, guys. I love to thank all our donors for making that donation, including one person on here. If they want to identify themselves, that they can. But if not, it's okay. We really
I will not identify myself.
Okay, we won't say that you sent a donation in then, Jeff. Anyways, so thank you for all that. And we really are relying on donations. If you can get them in, if you need that, I will put it in the notes also. So question of the week.
Question of the week.
And the question of the week, we have, what was your favorite toy, or what still is your favorite toy growing up? I thought that was
That's a totally different question, Ed. I don't
Totally
think we
different
should.
question.
Well, yeah, that's a loaded question. All right. So what was your favorite toy growing up?
She's
All right.
good on her feet.
There's Chris. What's up, Chris? There he is.
Guys, hey, we just said something. Maybe this is a good time. I know that there's not many details yet, but we gave you guys a sober shout out, not only for having the cars here, but don't give us too much details because I know they're not out, but I heard that you're going to be making a donation to Friends in Recovery.
We are, and we also are going to try to work on some sponsorship stuff. So we're looking forward to it.
Thanks,
That's
Chris.
I guess it was a much smaller announcement than I thought it was going to be, but it could involve a new car. I'm not sure, or used car, or something like that.
Stay
Brand new
tuned.
Ferrari.
Stay tuned. That's it. So
Can't let too big of the cat out of the bag.
that's right. That's it. So, thanks, Chris. So our favorite toy of the week, I have Bambi said that she had growing up Light Bright. Yes, Light Bright was fun.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Twist and Spin. That's
Sit and spin. I remember that.
Sit and Spin. That's another
That's a
good one.
totally different toy this day.
Yeah. That's Sandy.
Very different.
Her.
My
We're gonna
favorite
keep
toy?
this rated G. All right. When it comes to toys, I knew it was going to go this way. I knew it was a loaded question, but
I'm so glad Carl's not on today.
oh my God, I know. So, but I'm going to
Hey,
start
my
with,
favorite toy?
yeah, I'm going to start with
a
you.
rock. I grew up very deprived.
A rock.
A rock and a stick. Those are my
Pet rock. We're going to start with you, Jeff. Seriously, is it a rock?
Actually, it was interesting because I grew up with I have an identical twin brother. So we actually shared a lot of things. And we used to love playing like with G.I. Joe. And my dad was a World War II veteran. So when we were growing up and G.I. Joe came out, it was like so exciting to like, war was, it was like glamorized in some ways and glorified. And then of course, I won't go too off the spectrum here, but the Vietnam War hit, and that was like the bad war versus the good war, But we played with that. And then we used to get like these race cars, like a sort of electric cars that went on this plastic track, and we used to like race them. And and I loved them. And I remember the car I had was like a 1968 XKE, just a beautiful car. And interesting enough, today, years later, I still love cars, and I have a couple of cars, So I think sometimes the toys influence you and your interest in patterns and behavior.
Absolutely.
But yeah, those are my toys I liked.
All right. So Jeff with his
Jeff, what about you?
Oh gosh. Well, I was thinking like it's interesting when I was looking back at this question, because I liked the Light Bright too. I like that Bambi had said that. But the first thing that came to mind was Rainbow Bright and Starlight, the doll in the unicorn or the horse or whatever it was. But I remember I had two of them, and I had them, with me all the time. But you want to know what I really loved? I loved that speak and spell. Remember that thing that you could?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. That it was like my first electronic device, And then it kind of grew from there, because I always had like headphones and recorders. But guess what? I lied to you. You want to know what the favorite thing was? My grandma still has it today. The one that I had was the Viewmaster.
Oh yeah.
You put the slide in there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really watch TV growing up, but that remember you could follow along on the books. You had like all these different scenes. I must have had 100 of those round things. And my grandma still has the Viewmaster that I had, the red with the yellow trigger.
Yeah, Etch a Sketch. You used to use the little knobs.
Another one.
That was
if I thought you were going to say homemade still, how to make your own moonshine.
No, that was just a family business.
Oh, the crack kitchen. Yeah.
That was the kitchen.
That was like they had like a little baker's oven thing.
Easy bake oven.
Easy bake oven. Yeah.
It was heated by like a little light bulb. You know how many houses caught on fire because of that?
Oh my God.
That was a big deal.
Oh God. Well, my favorite thing. Did somebody ask?
Ed, what's your favorite toy?
Oh, thanks for asking, guys. Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, you should host this show. So a couple things come to mind, but the first thing that flashed to my mind, right, that I played for all the time was this Star Trek. Like you opened it up and it was Captain Kirk's seat there, and then you spun this little transporter and you hit the red button and he would disappear. You hit the green button, he would come back. I was like, this is so cool. I played with it all the time. It got so used and it was so much fun. I had Kirk, I had Spock, I had
Scotty,
Scotty, all of them I had, and that was before the next generation. I had them all. I was a big Trekkie. I mean, I'm not a Trekkie now, but I was a big Trekkie back then. But the other thing that I thought of, the thing that stuck out that made a huge difference in my life, right, was, and I don't know why my parents or Santa Claus, if any of the children are listening, would buy me this. I had to be 8 or 9 years old, and it was a toolbox with a real saw, a hammer, and it had this case where all the pieces fit right in, and you click them closed, right? I really love that. That inspired me to do some of my career. I owned a kitchen cabinet company. I build things, all that stuff. So that really inspired me with all that. But yeah, that was the thing. But the thing I played with the most was the Star Trek stuff. So we got a couple other things going on here. Let's see. Joe from Dayton Recovery Strong 101 says Atari 2600. I'm sorry. Yes, I remember that from my kids, and Bambi said she remembers it. And green plastic army men, Joe says it's also.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
My kids still play with those green plastic army men.
They're
now you can buy them at the dollar store, like in a giant bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Much different.
So guys, let us know your below. Let us know your whatchamacallit, your favorite toys. And again, this is getting to know us. This is about recovery. This is about, things that we're doing here. We will get to step 6. It might be shorter today, but that's okay. But we're getting to know each other, and we're getting to know everybody on Facebook Live too. So thanks. So comment below and let us know what your favorite toy is. I think that is it for now. So
remember the Walkman? The Walkman was a big one too. Like I remember walking around with that thing.
The Walkman, yes.
Remember you could tape over. You could use some other dumb tape of grandma's. I would put tape over the house, so you could hit record over it
and record on it. I remember all that stuff. That's it. So, so we're going to go into step 6 now. We're going down memory lane because Tiff is in memory lane at a car show, right? And so we can talk a lot about that. But I do want to talk about step 6 because this is a clinical look at step 6 today. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And I was kind of excited to do this show today. Not excited, but I needed to vent because we've moved in the last 10 days or 12 days or whatever it is. And you want to talk about character defects coming out. And you want to move, put all your shit in boxes, put them in a fucking moving truck, run them that cross country, and then open a fucking door when it gets here. You want to talk about character defects coming out? Let me tell you, man, my character defects truck was bigger than that fucking moving truck that was out there the other day. All right. So, and then now we have all these boxes to unpack, but this is where the program taught me to slow down. Don't react at your first kind of thought. Don't go into the crazy thinking. There's 280 boxes here. They're not going to get done today. Your life is going to be upside down for a while, but it will only be temporary. Do not let your character defects come out here. Enjoy what you're doing today. Enjoy everything. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy unpacking those boxes. Don't be a fucking asshole. Right? I cannot be an asshole through this. And sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't, but I tried to stay out of that as quickly as possible. And that's this step 6. I needed this through this move. I'm telling you. And Jeff, maybe you can kind of analyze all this and why we go into the character defects when things aren't proper or aren't in the way that aren't lined up the way we're supposed to be, or we don't have structure. And maybe that's a good question where to start as far as that goes.
It's an excellent point, and it's a beautiful analogy because when you think about moving, it's both a physiological sort of event, but also psychological. You're moving from the Northeast to the South, different attitudes, different mindsets, new beginnings. And when we think about character defects, there's a whole bunch of them, and we can all make a list of what our personal character defects are. And that doesn't mean we're damaged. It just means we're human. So there's a long list that we all have. So you were talking about moving and how frustrating it is. So it's impatience, it's anger, it's sort of maybe telling people what they need to do. It's the lack of sensitivity. It's a whole range of things. And what we know is that, the ability for us to sort of look at ourselves takes a lot of work. So, the last couple of weeks, we did step 4, we did step 5. That sort of sets it up for clearly step 6, which is a different phenomena. So when we're doing step 4 and step 5, particularly 5, we're getting feedback from people. We're looking at ourselves, we're identifying what's not working, the things we're upset about, the things we want to change. So it's easy to identify things at times that aren't working. The hard part is to do something about it. Step 6 is the doing. And we realize as human beings that we are mostly powerless over many, many things. And that step 6 is really the acknowledgement that for these defects to go away and to improve, we need help. We can't do it ourselves. So what's help? It's the higher power. It's a spiritual experience. For some people, it's God, but it's something beyond us. And the ability to sort of come to terms with that, is very challenging. Some people I will often speak to, they say, "Oh, I have trouble with AA because it's a religious organization." I said, "It's not a religious; it's a spiritual organization."
Yes.
There is a difference.
Yeah.
So, and at the end of the day, we all have a certain level of spirituality. I believe, because you look at the sunset, you look at your dog, you look at, it's not the book
I
and phone
think-
over, the character defects. I talk with my hands. So, but it is interesting how, we realize that there's so many things we have no control over, and sometimes we just have to identify and ask for this process to occur. And it's interesting because you realize that you only have part of that control. Your control is like asking for it. What happens after that is up to like the higher power, the universe, existentialism, etc., God, whatever you think. And it is challenging. It is. I find it interesting how people identify what their character defects are, and like, I can't relate to that, but I can relate to this. Like, oh, lying, stealing, stuff like that. That's not me. What's me? Getting ticked off, impatience, frustration with people who I think are stupid, stuff like that. And we all have our own defects, but it's interesting because it doesn't mean we're damaged. It means we're imperfect. And
well, it's kind of like these old cars, Jeff. Like they used to be really big rust buckets, right? But the longer you take, you polish them up, you can make them look a little bit better. It's all progress. And, and then sometimes you get new dents or they show back up again, the flaws come back, but you continue to work on it. I think this is a huge step where it's always just a work in progress.
Yes. Because it says we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Now, Jeff, I like what you said. We're human beings. So these defects will come back once in a while. These defects of character will show up in our lives. But here's the thing. How long do we keep them in our lives? Do we make them a habit in our life? Or do we have them in our life this long and then throw them out the door? Right? Because we're human beings. They're going to show up again. I'm going to be an asshole once in a while. I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself probably once in a while, because that's life on life's terms. But I don't need to tell everybody to go fuck themselves that walk past me. I don't need to be an asshole to everybody. I might just be, maybe it starts within, and then I stop and I say, okay, you know what? This could lead to me telling somebody to go pound salt or something. So I need to take a moment, say a prayer, whatever. So they're going to rear their ugly heads, no doubt about it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, but I've noticed that they do rear their ugly heads, and especially stressful situations.
Yeah. And this is a good time that you rely on the community too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because you don't have to, have that quick respond or that quick wittedness or whatever, right? You can stop, pause, just like the big book says, at any moment. And, you can make phone calls. You can be self-aware, like we've talked about a lot. Or at least Jeff has given me therapy about a lot. It's my self-awareness. And it doesn't mean we have to be so critical of ourselves. Because I'm like you, Ed, like I would have, the perfectionist in me would have came out where I need to put everything away the way it is supposed to go right now, because otherwise I can't function in chaos. But we had to move too, like in recovery. And we moved with 7 kids. And it was the week that everybody got shut down from COVID. So all the movers were out. Oh no. So it was Chris and I doing everything ourselves because everybody was like gone. They like disappeared. So that was, everything just sat around everywhere, I felt like. But again, that was a true test to our recovery, things like that. You rely on your meetings, you rely on your sponsor, you rely on your friendships, and most of all, you rely on your higher power. And communication is a big part of this step too, I think.
Oh yeah.
Chris and I had a conversation yesterday because one of his defects is that he like freaks out right away, or like, he is the biggest person who can like think on his feet and find a solution for everything. But in the immediate, sense, he's like, oh my God, everything's got to shut down. We can't do anything, right? But we communicate about it. And the communication we had last night was, I still need to go to, use you where I can, you can be my person and I can talk to you like that for a second, but just know that's not who I am. That's not what I'm thinking. I just need to get it out and then we can think it through. Yeah. So it's working through defects.
Yeah. So it says on page 65, it says, this does not mean that we expect all our character defects to be lifted out of us as the drive to drink was. A few of them may be, but with most of them, we shall have to be content with patient improvement. The key word here is entirely ready. Underline the fact that we want to aim at the very best we know or we can learn. So, it's a little deceiving that we're entirely ready to have all of our character defects removed. But then it says, like I said, on 65 in the last paragraph, it does say that it doesn't mean that we have to, that we have to be perfect. And perfectionism, as we know, we spoke not last show, the show before, is a character defect. Yeah. 100% character defect. We can't get things perfect. Nothing can be perfect, right? If even in this new house that I just walked into, I'm looking around, there's flaws here, but it's not, nothing's perfect. It cannot be perfect. Some scratches on the walls because, it's driving me nuts. I'm like, I just got to let it go. I can't be that perfect, and Jeff, perfectionism, what is that? And why do people like Tiffany and I have that? And why does it make us crazy? Because I know that's a big thing out there, especially for a character defect. And
addicts, Bill W. was a huge perfectionist.
Yeah. Why do you think?
Tell us why, Jeff.
Yeah. Fill us in. Why we're fucked up.
Good point. And, there are different theories about it, but I think one of the things we know about addiction and addicts, they do everything to the extreme. So, if a little is good, a lot is better. If I can have one drink and I feel a certain level of enjoyment, 10 will be better. So it's to the extreme. So what's perfectionism? Perfectionism is something to the extreme. And it's also trying to control things you don't have control over. So when we think about the ability to let go of things and just accept them is a gift. So think about this. You get a pair of brand new shoes. And let's say there's no flaws in it. They're brand new. They're out of the box. And they're not scuffed. And they're not, banged up and worn out. And then you put them on and guess what? They're not really that comfortable. But when they get beaten up and you're walking in them, and you break them in, all of a sudden they're damaged, but they feel fantastic. So if we think about ourselves as damaged people or somewhat worn or used or works in progress, we can learn to be much more comfortable with that. But the brand new shoe is remarkably uncomfortable. One out shoe is a good fit. So we have to think about our imperfections. That's something we can accept. But there is that mindset of everything has to be exactly right. And that is a character flaw because there's no such thing as perfectionism. And even when it's perfect for the moment, it doesn't last. Like there's beautiful cars behind you and driving by. They're so, remarkable. And then you use them and guess what happens? The parts wear out, tires wear out, brake lines go, hoses go, they overheat, the radiator caps leak, etc. And that's part of it. It's interesting because I happen to like old cars. And I remember I had a couple of old Jaguars and they were notoriously known for electrical problems and, overheating and breaking down. And then years ago, Ford took them over 20 years ago. And they got rid of all, they sort of minimized as all the moving parts and they had, more performance and they broke down a lot less. And the old Jaguar owner said, oh, it's not so much fun anymore because there was something fun about having things to work on and imagining. Yeah. But, when we think about, our character flaws, there are times in life we don't want to work so hard. So we go back and we want to, I want to gossip. I want to lust. I want to talk negative about others. Those are character flaws, but sometimes we give ourselves guilty pleasures by doing that. And then we realize that, okay, it's temporary. Let me get back on, in my recovery, all those things, because healthy people who go through the steps in AA, it's not just about, oh, I don't drink anymore. Ironically, that's a small part of it. It's about being the best person you can be. It's not where you ingest, it's how you live. Oh, I don't drink booze anymore. Hallelujah. But how are you behaving? How are you treating others? You still mistreating your family and beating your wife and kicking your dog and just being an a-hole. That's not okay. So you don't get a pass on that.
I
And-
like what you said, Jeff. Like when you stopping using is not the biggest part of it. It's the
Yes.
follow up, right, and the after effects. And I would love to open a treatment center, a recovery center that deals with everything else beyond removal of the substance. Create that whole recovery ecosystem where we can build a system where we're setting up support all the way through your recovery, and we all hang out together afterwards beyond removal of the substance, because this is such a work in progress. There's so much to deal with after that. My first 30 days, getting rid of that stuff was just like, I still was walking like I was in a cloud when I came out, like reality didn't exist, but it's a whole different story now. And I'm glad, that I was fortunate enough to have, this podcast, made friendships like you and Ed and all my friends in recovery, that I was able to get that support that I needed beyond removal of the substance, because this is a big part of that recovery is this step,
and it's the little things that build up, like, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. People who grow do little things each day and they make progress. So you don't go to the gym lifting, bench pressing 300 pounds on day one. You build up to it. You take care of your body, and then you sometimes have to learn techniques and strategies, and you have to be ready for it. And that involves like getting a good night's sleep and nutrition and proper gear and having someone spot you. There's a whole range of things. Nothing happens overnight, and things that are beauty take time. It doesn't happen instantaneously. Some people may think it does, but it typically doesn't. And particularly, human growth and, mental wellness and so on. That's why I like the book. We talk about, Make Your Bed.
That's a great book,
Doing
man.
little things that build upon other little things. And
Yes.
you realize you can do a little thing, you can do another thing, then you can do one more thing, and then I have the courage to show up at the gym because I'm out of shape, and I think everyone's, looking at me, and I'm, I have ego and pride and, self-esteem issues, all character deficits.
Yeah.
And then I realize no one really cares. And I show up and I can feel good about that.
Just
So
do your thing. Yeah.
There's
Well, it's also, it's about making yourself feel good about yourself, making your bed the first thing you do in the morning.
Right.
The other thing, and along the same lines that you're talking about, if you don't do these little things, by saying hello to somebody or making your bed in the morning, or my big thing is when we go to a shopping center, we go to a grocery store and we push the cart out and put the food in the car, and then I don't put it in the corral. I put it back at the store. I make sure I push it, because you know what? If I can't do something as simple as pushing a cart back to the store and take 3 minutes out of my day, what happens when the big shit hits? What happens when or just, my character defect poking its head out? How am I going to control that if I can't just drive the cart back, or make my bed in the morning, or say hello to somebody? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the little things, like you said in that book, it's just amazing. That's a great book to read too. Jeff, I want to talk about a couple other character defects that's listed in the big book. The big one for most of us, fear. Why fear? What does fear do? What does fear do to help us and also to hurt us? Why is that a big character defect? And I believe that's the first one in the big book.
Yeah. And you're right. And that was a beautiful question, the way you teed it up, because it's not about, I like what you said, how does it help us? Mm-hmm. So when we look back in early mankind, the planet Earth is about 7 billion years old. And early hominoids, and there've been many, renditions of modern man, hundreds of them, and we think it was always sequential. You had, Cro-Magnon man, and then you had Neanderthal man, and then you had Homo erectus, and so on. Early hominoids. Some of them actually coexisted together at the same time, and they died off for various reasons. But the interesting thing is that one of the things that is very helpful with human development, the human brain, is we have the amygdala. So what's the amygdala? The amygdala is the smoke alarm in the brain. It's the warning system. It's the element of our brain, the part of our brain that signals fear. So do you ever drive down the highway and and you're driving fast, perhaps like I do, like most of us do, and there's a state police car behind you with the lights on, and you automatically think that car, the state police are pulling you over. And all of a sudden you're breathing heavily and it's sort of problematic and like you're sweating and they go right by you. You're no longer in danger. You're no longer in fear. You're not going to be pulled over. But your body is still acting as if you are experiencing that. That's the amygdala. It's the warning system.
Okay.
So the fear is, as you had pointed out, and the way you asked the question was beautiful. It's like, is there any good about it? Yes, it protects us. So there's an element where we need to have fear because if we're walking with no fear, we get hurt. So early man, when they're walking with no fear in the African Transvaal, they're going to be, being attacked by predators or stepping in something or stepping on a snake or tripping. When you walk into bad parts of town, and I've been to like many cities in the world where it's not always safe, you have to have your head on a swivel and you have to have an element of fear. You stay safer that way. But I think fear is also about like, we have egos and pride. So then we feel like people aren't going to like us. We're afraid of that. Then we have insecurities, and then we have psychological pain, and then we have damage, and then we feel bad about things. And what ends up happening with that, we act out, we self-medicate because the fear then promotes our, sort of ability to sort of push it aside.
Knocking everything, knocking the book over.
But talking with my hands. But the interesting thing is that it is a gift. So there's a book written by, his first name is Gavin, I'm spacing his last name, he's English, The Gift of Fear. That fear allows us to have our eyes wide open and to experience life. And it gives us signals like, I should not go in that elevator because there's some creepy guys that can actually assault me and attack me.
Or even something even basic like after you turn the stove off, I know not to touch that because I'm afraid of getting burnt. Now let's go to the opposite end when we future trip, when we think of the bad things, when the catastrophic thinking. Why do we go into that? Why does a human brain go into that? Because we obviously know, or I should say, I obviously know when the cutoff is and when where reality versus fantasy world takes over. But why do we go into that fantasy world? What does that fantasy world do when we start thinking, oh my God, this podcast is never going to last. Nobody's listening to it, blah, blah, whatever it is, we all go in how deep we go down that rabbit hole. I can tell you, I go days sometimes down rabbit holes. You know what I mean? But why do we do that as human beings?
So that's how we're wired. It's part of our, historical DNA. So we are wired to go that way. Why? It's a self-protection mechanism. So if we think everything's going to be fine, guess what? We're unbelievably disappointed and it's dangerous. If we think it may be somewhat problematic, we actually lower our expectations and we actually experience pleasure. So it's this yin yang approach. The other part is that it makes it safe. So if I think I can drive my car 150 miles an hour and let go of the steering wheel and I'm going to be fine, I'm going to die. But if I have a little fear, like, oh, gee whiz, I didn't think I was going so fast and I better put my seatbelt on, or this looks dangerous, I become a little more cautious. So people get hurt sometimes because they're so lackadaisical, and fear does help them stay safe and grounded. But it is interesting how, it's little things that sometimes add up. So you were talking about how like we have these, you go down this rabbit hole. So we all have projections. We all have thoughts. The average person has between 60 and 80,000 thoughts per day. The vast majority of those thoughts, 75% of them or more, tend to be negative. So we are wired to think negative. Most people, react this way. Isn't it interesting? You walk around and you see someone, you don't always say, oh, that person's so grumpy and negative. Usually you're surprised when you see someone so positive and delightful. Because they're the rarity. Those of us who maintain good attitudes and work hard at it, it takes effort. So, oh, that person was so nice. Most people we all have the capacity of being that way, but a lot of people don't work on it. So we are wired to have negative thoughts and automatic thoughts that bring us down. So I often say, the mental health arena that, depression is yesterday. Anxiety is tomorrow. So when we start projecting being worried and anxious, oh my God, what happens if the moving truck doesn't come? What happens if we can't get in? Is the house going to be ready? Oh, a storm's coming. What are we going to do? We all remarkably adaptable and we have amazing resilience and survival skills. Both of you are perfect examples of people who could have been dead many, many times based upon behaviors and lifestyle and substances, etc.
Oh yeah.
And you're not. So you're tough, you're resilient.
Yeah.
So that's where bad things sometimes help us.
Yeah. But also in what you're talking about, Jeff, is when we do that projection and we get into the fear-based stuff, the future tripping, the anxiety, all that stuff. Probably in my estimate, in what I've been seeing in my life is that probably 98% of the shit that's in my head that I'm thinking about has not come true. It has not come true the way I thought it would. Right.
Yeah. And we always have to remind ourselves, like when I have like, oh my God, I'm in trouble or something. I remind myself, wait a second, I've been through worse. I will get through this. I also tell myself bad news travels fast.
Yes.
So if something bad's going to happen, I'll find out really soon. And then I also reflect back in my life when there were challenging things, a death of a parent, friends dying, bad things happening. I look back. Yes, it's sad. It's okay to be sad. And then I say, and I did get through it. And we all got through it. And we manage it. And we manage it the best way we can. As Nietzsche says, if it doesn't kill us, it makes us stronger.
Absolutely, yeah. Jeff, I want to read a comment here from Sandy M. Oh, good. Finish.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, we have to remind ourselves when we are thinking negative thoughts, we have to like reframe it. Like, wait a second, this is just a thought. This isn't real. I can think I'm Napoleon. It doesn't make me real. I can think I can sort of play in the Boston Celtics and help them beat, the Warriors. Doesn't make it real.
Yes.
In fact, they lost anyway without my help. They didn't need it.
And that's where Sandy comes up, says you don't want to suppress negative emotions. It's important to analyze them the minute they happen, right? The minute those negative emotions or those crazy thoughts come in, if we don't analyze them, think them through and throw them out, we're going to go down that rabbit hole. And she makes a good point here about that, because once we get into that negative thinking, those fears or whatever you want to call it, we got to stop it immediately. Right. And, the way I do it, the way I get out of this character defect, because fear is probably my number one. Fear and negative thinking and all that is my number one character defect. I'm still battling that today. My sponsor used to call me doom and gloom Eddie. He doesn't call me that anymore. Progress, not perfection, folks here. So
that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah. But,
the ability to identify what you just said talks about a lot of your positive, psychological well-being and health. Because, you self-reflect, you identify what's not working. And it also is a gift. So how is it a gift? It's a gift because it pushes you to the next level. So, you and I are runners, marathon runners, and, athletic, and we push ourselves because, oh my God, I'll feel bad if I don't do this. I'm afraid I won't perform at a certain level. So it pushes me to train harder, to get up early, put more miles in, go to the gym, watch what I eat. That's a gift, but it could also be a gift that doesn't hurt you. Like you don't have to be depressed and uptight. And there is a time that you want to sit back and enjoy the journey. So just as a side note, I was the director of sports psychology for a professional soccer team. And the guys were very anxious because they're performing in front of, it's their career. This is what they're trying to do, make a living playing soccer. And I used to tell them, when you're out on the pitch, the field, take a moment, a millisecond, and look at the crowd, and look around, remind yourself, there's going to be a day you will not be able to do this. So instead of being anxious, embrace it, love it, enjoy it, soak it all in. Good game, bad game, it doesn't matter. And learn from your bad performance. That's what step 6 is about. I have these deficits. Let me learn from it. Let me improve it. Let me make it better.
Let me see how quickly I can get through it, because they're going to come up. They're going to rear their heads. I always say they're going to rear their ugly heads. But, I always say we need them further and further apart that they show up, and we need them shorter and shorter that they're in our lives. And if we can do that, that's success. I believe it's success if we can get them out as quick. And some of these we can throw away and get rid of. One other one in this list I want to talk about. I think we just pulled up. I wanted to pull up the three. I want
to point out too, though, Ed, that sometimes it's so funny because you can tell that you personally are trying to improve this stuff too. Because even the other day, you're a life coach, right? And so you are always pointing out the positive things in people, positive traits, but then you always are able to catch, you know, how to tell them how to rephrase their negativity. And it's so funny because your self-awareness too is like, I said to him the other day on the phone, Jeff, I was like, all right, I'm going to pull an Andy on you. I said, if I would have made that comment to you, Ed, you would have looked at me and said, Tiffany, you can't talk negative now about yourself like that. You shouldn't think like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you can take that self-awareness, you know, my self-awareness, I used to be so critical. Everything was critical. It was always about the negative things about myself. But now I've been able to grow, you know, through learning, you know, like from Ed or from whoever, people like you, Jeff, and my therapist, you know, be self-aware, but be self-aware about the good things too, the positive side of those things that you're doing well.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that self-awareness is a character defect of mine, but I can turn it to a positive.
And you know, and reward yourself for the little things. So some people say, I want to lose weight, and they expect, you know, to drop a ton of weight immediately. It doesn't work that way. In fact, when it does work that way, statistically, you put it back on. So you're losing a little here and there, and just staying on the path. And even if you have a minor setback, you know, you ate the wrong food, or you didn't work out, or you did something that wasn't in your best interest.
Had ice cream yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't know if it's true or not, but had ice cream yesterday. Sorry.
Hey, so did I, because life should have those moments where you can sort of balance it out. You know, there's certain things you can't do because it can kill you, but you know, eating ice cream is relatively harmless.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a simple pleasure. So think about the old pleasures. Oh, I'm shooting up heroin. A terrible, scary, pleasurable experience for people.
And it was you hit it right. It was pleasurable for the moment. It was pleasurable just for that second when you got high or drunk or whatever, but it wreaked fucking havoc on the rest of part of your lives, right? So we have to remember the other parts of our lives. That's another character defect where we only remember how fun it was, because using was fun at times, guys. Let me tell you, I had some fun, but it got into dark days where there wasn't fun, right? And I have to also remember that, like, where did it take me? Why did it take me there? The arrests, the DUIs, the divorces, the cheating on spouses, whatever it was, you know, it took me there. And I don't need to be there anymore, you know.
I didn't do any of that stuff. I was a perfect addict.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's her character defect when she was using her perfectionism.
So you're so positive. It's fantastic. So, and what you described, we call it euphoric recall. I look back on these experiences of my use, my addiction, my drinking. Oh, it wasn't a problem. Do you remember the time we sat at the beach and we were at Cape Cod and made a little fire and we drinking a little tequila and we had so much fun? Oh, you mean the night that someone fell in the fire and had 30-degree burns on their face, and you lost your wallet, and then you went to your car and you got pinched for your second DUI and did 2 years in the can? That night, that really was not fun.
No.
Because we tend to minimize those things. That's why, you know, step 6, 5, 4, we're looking at ourselves and we're trying to do something about these problems. We're coming to face with reality. Like it hits you right in the face. No, this is not okay behavior, and this is not the way I want to live my life, and this is not good for me and the people I love. Therefore, I need some help dealing with it. I ask God, I ask my higher power, I ask others, etc. And you know, then I'm going to maximize that. And it's a ongoing work. It's like, you know, farmers plant a field. You know, they plant the seed, they grow the crop, they harvest. Guess what? Next season, you do it all over again. You start all over again.
Yeah.
And there's lots of comments on Facebook Live about our discussion today. I love it.
There is.
And a couple of them, just so you know, Sandra, I will hire you. And same with Bambi and every. Of course, Jeff has to agree to be the clinical
therapist
side of
things. And I will be available
to deal with the trauma.
That's right. There is some good questions on Facebook, and this is great about Facebook, that we can read all this. Sandy M says, I want to get through to the other side of fear. And And that's true. We just have to get to the other side of all these character defects, right, Jeff? And
Yes.
and it's the shorter that we're in them, the quicker we get through them. But we also learn when we're in those when those character defects are coming up, or when we went through those, because we learn not to do it. Okay, so if I did it this way this time, now I'm at the end of it, I'm not going to do it that way again. And then when that situation comes up, that fear doesn't come in, or that that self-pity doesn't come in. I do want to talk about one other one. I picked out a couple here, is lying. What good fucking benefit does a lying have at all in life? Okay, that I can see, to me, is none. You're the clinical guy. Maybe there is some stuff, but I'll even tell you that character defect still has not left me. And I don't mean I lie about, like whatever, like big things, little things. Like when I go for a run, if somebody, how far did you run? When I ran 4. Oh, I ran 5 miles today. No, I didn't run 5 fucking miles. Why am I saying I ran 5 miles when I only ran 4? Why can't I say 4? What is wrong with that? I don't get it. I don't know what that human like kind of nature is, that why I'm doing that. But can you explain lying, Jeff, and what benefit, if there is any, for us as humans?
So, there are people who lie all the time, and it's compulsive. They tend to be obsessive compulsive with it, and they just lie when they don't need to lie, because no one's judging them, but they lie because they're used to it. It's an unhealthy pattern of behavior they repeat. The primary reason why people lie is that, it's avoidance of trouble. They're trying to like protect themselves. So the number one common human defense is avoidance. We avoid things that are unpleasant. Now, there's some of us who actually don't avoid unpleasant things. We like embrace them because we think they help us. So, for example, I get a letter from the IRS. I'm not avoiding opening it up. I'm not embracing it either, but I just want to know what, I want to see what I'm dealing with. And I opened it up. And actually, this happened recently. I opened it up, and what do I have? I overpaid. I'm getting a refund, but I'm operating with a level of fear. But I also know it's good to know what, give me the worst case scenario, then I'll problem solve. Like you were saying, Tiffany, there are people like Chris, they're good on their feet. They can problem solve. Let me know what it is, and we'll start thinking about how to make it better, or we learn how to accept it, because sometimes that's the reality.
Yeah.
Mm.
The other part is there are people who lie because they have this underlying self-esteem issue, and they need to sort of self-promote. They need to make themselves someone who they're not. Now, saying you ran 5 miles and you ran 4 is not inherently a terrible thing, because the person you're telling this to probably didn't run any miles. So because we tend to be the harshest critics on ourselves, or sometimes we sort of fantasize that we want to do something better. And there are people who tend to exaggerate. There is a phenomena of the white lie, which really isn't a terrible lie, but it's a small lie. So Lillian Carter, Jimmy Carter's mother, was once being interviewed on the radio in Georgia. And they said, "Oh, Miss Carter, we know you're a very devout person, and you're very moral. Do you ever tell a lie?" "Well, once in a while, I may tell a white lie." "Oh, you do? Can you give me an example of a white lie?" "Yes, when I sat down and I said, 'So nice to meet you.'" But there are people who will lie because they're sociopathic, and it's driven by narcissism generally.
That's me.
So they
I'm a
create this
sociopath.
whole story that is so fabricated. I mean, you could just turn on, like, there's some good shows on like Netflix. What was it? Anna Sorokin, who was a fraud, and like, ripped off millions of dollars from people and went to jail. And then there was the Twitter guy, the Israeli guy, who was like ripping off people. And then there's like Bernie Madoff, lying, self-promotion. So, people lie because there's usually something in it for them, but they also lie because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to go to jail. They don't want someone mad at them. And they also lie because they want to, exaggerate who they are. Do you ever see these guys? You hear about them? "Oh yeah, I was a Green Beret. I was in a Navy SEAL." Stolen valor. Not true. None of those things are true. And there are guys, and there's a whole like web channel on it, I think, called Stolen Valor. And the guys walk around with uniforms, and the medals aren't even consistent with what they're saying they did. I served in in Panama, and I served in Iraq and Fallujah, and they have a medal from World War I.
Jeff, I have a question too. my therapist told me, well, and if Carl was on, he would back me up on this too. Being an adult child of alcoholism or addiction in my family, I always felt like I had to people please.
Yeah.
And so I was always I mean, that was another. So a lot of this too can come from our childhood, no?
Yes, it's an excellent point, because there are those of us, and I can relate, we don't want to hurt people's feelings. So we say things, and sometimes we're better off just being truthful, but there's one of the steps, like don't, there's no upside to be truthful if it's just going to hurt someone's feelings, because there's no takeaway. So, if someone says, oh, I'm so fat, I look fat, maybe they are fat, but you don't have to say, yes, you are correct. No, you say, listen, it's good that you have awareness. You can do something about this. Or, you're not, look at you, you're mobile, you're walking around. There are things not to say. Oh, I've seen fatter. So, so like if my wife says to me, how do I look in this dress? I said, you look fantastic. I don't really want to, and she's not bad, and she's very athletic and a beautiful woman. But I would never say, oh, Captain Ahab, there she goes, let's go get her. but we don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Well, that's where the white lie comes in. Yeah.
And is that really a lie, or is that just having, kindness?
True. I mean,
and also beauty's subjective, right? So what I think is beautiful may someone else think is not, So there's a lot of ways to look at it.
Yeah. And in on page 66 of the 12 and 12, it says we what we must recognize is the exult in some of our defects. We really love them. Who, for example, doesn't like to feel a little superior to the next fellow, right? Or even quite a lot superior. So maybe like those little white lies that I was talking about, I want to feel superior. Maybe I'm not secure with my running. Maybe I'm not secure in something that day that happened to me. And I have to keep taking a look at these character defects, step 4 and 5, keep working this, the steps. And then understanding I'm okay if I only ran 3 miles, and I'm okay if I only ran 0 miles today, and I have to understand that. So I guess that superiorism is kind of part of this step where we have to, and that can go for fear, fear me, you know what I mean? I'm superior, fear me. Lying, I'm the most superior. Jeff, I know everything. You know what you know. I know more. You know what I mean? It's what's the old saying? Excuse my language, but it's the my dick's bigger than your dick fucking, thing, right? As far as that goes. And you can apply that to a lot of this.
Can you draw me a picture?
We'll post that on Facebook. But I guess that's where a lot of that comes from is that feeling superior or feeling inferior, maybe. That's inferior.
Right. So, there's a phenomena that I often think about is like competence and confidence. So what's competence? You're good at what you do. What's confidence? You feel good about yourself and you think you're good. So there are people who have such confidence, but they're really not that good. They're not that skilled, but they'll tell you that they know it and they're fantastic and so on. So it's a distortion. Maybe they really believe it. Maybe it's, as you had pointed out, some underlying insecurity. Then there are people who are unbelievably skilled, but they have no confidence. So, and I see that a lot. Someone comes in my office, they're doing some writing, they're trying to be a writer. I say, oh, let me read your stuff. And I say, holy cow, this is amazing. This is fantastic. Do you really think so? I really do. So there are professions that inherently bring a lot of insecure people, like the arts and performance and musicians and writers, etc. And we all have our own insecurities. It's normal, but it's a very good point that we sometimes try to, overinflate. And there's also this thing where we have personal expectations, then we're disappointed in ourselves. So for example, I've run the Boston Marathon 20 times. I usually feel pretty good when I'm done. It's a big achievement. Am I disappointed sometimes? Yes, because sometimes I didn't run the race I wanted to run. Other times I was the year I thought I would do terrible, I had my best run. And I was so proud and felt so great. Then the year I trained my hardest and thought I would really kill it, didn't happen. So I was disappointed, but I can accept that because I also said, well, how many people run the marathon? How many run 20 marathons? You know, but then I have friends who run 35 and have run 27. And I have friends who run sub 3-hour marathons. And my son ran Philly at 3:26. You know, those are good times. You know, those are impressive times.
Yes.
And so you sometimes compare yourself to others and then you feel disappointed. Oh, I should have made the varsity baseball team and I didn't. You feel down. But how many people could make it but don't have the sort of motivation to try and apply and try out and face rejection? So that's a beautiful person. That's an amazing person who's willing to try and fail. That's a gift. The ability to do something and fail allows you to say, well, at least I tried. The person who never tries will never fail, but they never grow either.
Exactly. And Sandy M said, why I lie, self-esteem. Thanks, Jeff, for explaining that. Yeah, that's another thing. My self-esteem sometimes isn't where it should be. And maybe that's why I tell these little white lies. You know what I mean? And I know I'm good enough. I know I can stand out in a crowd. I know I can hold my own, whatever I do. Right. But sometimes, like, oh, well, this guy is, like you said, your son ran a 3-hour marathon.
26, yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, shit, that's pretty good. But I only ran a 3-hour and 42-minute marathon when I was his age, But why, okay, so maybe I can, then the next thought was, okay, well, maybe I can say on here, I ran a 3-hour and 15-minute marathon. You know what I mean? It's always that, that self-esteem. And I think if we don't work on our self-esteem, that's where these defects start popping up. We have to be confident, like you said, the confidence. We have to be confident in ourselves to get rid of these defects. And again, that's where all these steps come in place, that we have to work these steps in order to get to this particular step, not to have these defects coming out and rearing their ugly heads. And that's where the self-esteem comes in through these first 6 steps to building confidence, to, especially 4, 5, and 6, building that confidence, knowing who I am, knowing that I'm not a fake person, knowing that I'm not lying anymore, that I'm not cheating, I'm not stealing, that I'm not hurting anybody. That's where these character defects go away.
One of mine that keeps out, rears up a lot is the mistrust. I don't trust people, and so I'm always, like suspicious or on the defense or, whatever, when someone says, like, is this real? And that's one that I continuously have to work on. I know we talked about it a lot, but that's one. We talked about perfectionism. That's one. All these different defects. But again, they keep getting better. And you're right. That's why they're in order. I love the order of these steps. They're there for a reason, and it's especially imperative to work with someone like Jeff.
Yes. Yeah. And
over and out.
Over and out. CH over and out.
Back to you.
We're going to close here in a minute, but you're right, Tiff. Along with working with your sponsor, especially your recovery, along with working with your sponsor, along with working the steps and reaching out to other alcoholics and addicts, you need a therapist like Jeff, seriously, to get you through that stuff, because there are some things in life that a sponsor may not understand or may not be able to dig deeper into, like Jeff does. And like you said earlier, some of this stuff is brought up through childhood and we don't even know it, and that's where somebody like Jeff comes in, especially in these character defects. If your character defects are rearing their ugly heads after you did all these steps, I would suggest getting a therapist if you don't have one. Am I correct about that, Jeff? Or what's your thoughts on that?
It's a very good point, because we are all imperfect. It's a question of degree. And you talk to a therapist, number one, it's confidential. Number two, they're going to be truthful with you. Number three, they're there to help you grow as a person. So you can talk to your friends, and that's a fantastic thing. But friends don't always tell you the truth, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. That's one of the other reasons we're talking about, why do people lie? I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Mm-hmm. So I may not always tell them the truth or tell them I'm pissed off. So when someone comes in, and I don't have the ability to, be I mean, I'm not their friend per se. I may have a quote. It looks like we feel like friends, and probably in a different context, maybe we would be. But I'm there to do a job, and I'm a professional. So, so you have the ability to sort of, in a supportive, caring environment, talk about things that are hard, and you can grow from it. And
Absolutely.
I always say hard things are much better than easy things. I go to the gym. If the workout is easy, no upside. The workout is hard. Boy, do I feel good about myself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And do I benefit, psychologically and physiologically? So you're right, Ed. It's good to have someone who's there, who's on your team, and is going to be truthful with you.
Exactly. You're not going to lie to you. And that's where
I was going to ask you a question, Ed.
Yeah.
What is it that you're drinking there? You were drinking something.
This is actually pretty good stuff. Thanks for asking, Tiff. It's my my super coffee. This is actually a good flavor, guys. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's the super coffee blueberry muffin. Like, it's really good. I've been sipping on it. And it's really 80 calories and only 2 grams of 1 gram of sugar. Yeah, I've been drinking this stuff. You've probably been seeing me drinking it. I've been all natural. It's positive energy. It says 0 sugar added. I don't know, man. It's plant-based too. I've been drinking a lot of it. So if anybody wants to know more about it, let me know. They're not a sponsor. They're not anything of our show. Not a sponsor yet. Not yet.
You need to be.
I've been drinking it a lot. So, but Jordan just showed up. Hey, Jordan. At least maybe she's been on, or she's.
Yay, Jordan's here.
Jordan's here. Jordan is a fan of the girls. I know. Good comments, everybody. Jeff, I think we're going to end it here because, I think that the summary of everything is character defects are going to show up. Character defects are going to be there at the wing, just like to think of that drink, like it's always waiting there, right? That drink is always waiting there. And if I work my steps, if I do what I have to do, talk to my sponsor, I keep it at bay. And same thing with my character defects. If I keep them at bay, if I watch them, if I look for the warning signs, and all that, and figure out like, okay, I need to not focus on like whatever my character defect might be coming up, and just kind of run with it and let it go. Like fear, whatever it might be, lying, whatever that white lie is. That's how I better myself. I can honestly say my character defects will show up here and there, but they're not going to show up like they used to. The way I used to lie, the way I used to cheat, the way my fear, all that stuff is, and today I can honestly say that I do have a therapist. Jeff's not my therapist, but Jesus Christ, I call him enough. He should be charging me. But he probably doesn't take my insurance. I have to do a self-pay.
No, I would just have you send me blueberry coffee.
I did the blueberry super coffee, guys. You see, there it is, blueberry super coffee. Anyways, but that's kind of my say on it. Any last words for anybody here, Tiff or Jeff? Any last words before we close on character defects? Oh, Tiff, you're muted. You're muted, Tiff. Tiff, you're muted.
How about now?
That's good.
I said I'm a little upset because I claimed that this hour was going to be mine with Jeff Zeisel. What would Jay-Z say? And you took over my show.
I did.
My hour of therapy I was supposed to get. What a great show. I love that we're doing Adventures in Recovery live show out here at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds at the Back to the 50s car show. And what a great day for all of us. This has been a great show. I missed our show last week. I really did. I missed talking recovery.
I did too. Absolutely. Jordan says for her Jordan, she says, thank you guys for being so honest, transparent. It makes it relatable. Sandy said, thank you very much. And it's true. We only speak the truth on here. I see this show sometimes as my sponsor because I say shit on here that I tell my sponsors sometimes. But here's the thing. If we can't be transparent on here and give you guys what you need to do, what you need to take away from here, as Jeff does every single time. He tells the truth on here. He just lays it out, and this is what you have to do if you want to stay sober. This is how you do it, and that's kind of why we do this here. So guys, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just do the best you can. If you do the best you can, that's a good way to live your life.
Yeah.
And we can always try to do a little better.
Absolutely. We're going to close here. I just want to let everybody know, please like, subscribe, and share this show. This will get the word out. We are doing the steps of the month for the whole year. As you guys know, Jeff comes on once a month and looks at the step in a clinical way. Jeff, fabulous show. Great job. I got a lot out of this show. I hope our people listening got a lot out of this show. Tiffany, wonderful views back there. I love the car show. We're going to have to do more remote stuff going on. And this is great, guys. So everybody on Facebook, we love you guys, and stay sober, everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, everybody, and stay
back
sober.
at you.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.